Before this video starts, apologies in advance for the poor video quality. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is not just your average action-packed video game. It's a journey, like stumbling upon a secret underground fighting ring in the middle of your favorite karaoke bar. If you've never played a Yakuza game, first of all, how dare you? But don't worry, myself and my co-host Ams are here to tell you why Yakuza Kiwami 2 is one of the most brilliantly absurd, emotionally gripping, and thoroughly enjoyable video games you'll ever come across.
Let's start with the story, which is basically a crime drama that could only be written after several rounds of drinks. Imagine a TV soap opera that's been injected with a mix of testosterone, melodrama, and a little bit of absurdity. That's Yakuza Kiwami 2 in a nutshell.
You play as Kazuma Kiryu, a man who's got more titles than Daenerys Targaryen. He's the Dragon of Dojima, a former Yakuza, an orphanage caretaker, and possibly the world's most reluctant babysitter.
The game kicks off with Kiryu fresh out of the events of Yakuza Kiwami, getting dragged back into the underworld shenanigans. This time, the Omi Alliance and a rival Yakuza faction is making big moves, and Kiryu has to step back into his old life to keep the peace by punching a lot of people in the face.
The story takes you through twists and turns that would make a pretzel jealous, from political power plays within the Yakuza, secret love affairs, to the occasional heartwarming moments that make you forget that the guy you're rooting for solves most of his problems with his fists. Yakuza Kiwami 2's narrative is the kind of wild ride you'd expect from a late night binge watch of your favorite trashy TV show. If you think that the game is all about running around and beating people up, well, you're not entirely wrong. The beauty of Yakuza Kiwami 2 lies in its characters. Each one is more colourful than a Harajuku street on a Saturday afternoon.
Kazuma Kiryu, our impassive protagonist, is the epitome of a hard-boiled hero, yet he's got a soft spot bigger than a hole in Majima's heart. Speaking of Goro Majima, this one-eyed maniac deserves a paragraph all to himself. Majima is that crazy uncle that shows up to family reunions uninvited but ends up being the life of the party. His unpredictable nature and love for chaos adds a layer of unpredictability to the game. Majima even has his own mini-campaign in Kiwami 2, which feels like a gift from the gaming gods.
But it's not just the main characters who shine. The game is filled with side characters who could easily star in their own spin-off games. From the cabaret clubs you manage to the random street thugs you encounter, everyone feels like they've got a story worth telling, even if that story usually ends with them in a crumpled heap on the sidewalk.
Let's get to the meat of the game. No, not the delicious yakiniku you can gorge on in-game, but the gameplay. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is an action-adventure game with beat-em-up combat that feels like a symphony of violence. Kiryu doesn't just punch people, he orchestrates street fights like a maestro. The combat system is fluid and every punch, kick and bone-crushing finisher feels incredibly satisfying. Whether you're smashing someone's head into a vending machine or delivering a flying kick to a thug's face, the combat never gets old.
One of the coolest features is the Dragon Engine, which allows for seamless transitions between exploration and combat. You can be walking down the street minding your own business when suddenly a group of hooligans decides to ruin your day. Without any loading screens, you're instantly in the fight, turning the streets of Kamurocho and Sotenbori into your personal battleground.
But it's not all about beating people up. Sometimes you need to unwind, and what better way to relax than by indulging in some classic Japanese pastimes. The game's minigames are legendary, whether you're singing your heart out in karaoke or managing a cabaret club. There's always something to do in Yakuza Kiwami 2 that distracts you from the main story in the best possible way.
Speaking of distractions, let's talk about the cabaret club. This minigame is a fan favorite, and for good reason. It's like The Sims, but with more glitter and less awkward woohooing. In the side activity, you take on the role of a club manager, recruiting hostesses, dressing them up, and training them to entertain customers. It's as ridiculous as it sounds, and just as addictive.
The Cabaret Club is surprisingly a deep management sim where you have to balance the needs of your girls, the preferences of your customers, and the overall success of the club. It's a game within a game, and it's so engaging that you might forget that there's a Yakuza war raging just outside the doors of your glittering den of iniquity.
If running a cabaret club isn't enough, how about running a construction company? In Yakuza 0, we had the real estate business and the club, but in Kiwami 2, enter Majima Construction, another absurdly fun distraction. In this side activity, Majima and his ragtag crew take on the task of building a new skyscraper in Kamurocho. This being a Yakuza game, construction isn't just about laying bricks. It involves battling rival construction companies in all-out brawls that would make the WWE jealous.
This mode is essentially a tower defense game where you deploy your workers, who also happen to be fighters, to defend your construction site from invading enemies. It's silly, over the top, and ridiculously fun.
Yakuza Kiwami 2 isn't just about the main story and the minigames. The game's side quests, known as sub-stories, are where the developers let their imagination run wild. These aren't your typical fetch quests. No, these are stories that range from the heartwarming to the downright bizarre.
1 minute you're helping a struggling punk band find their groove, the next you're teaching a dominatrix how to properly insult her clients. These side stories are filled with humor, charm, and a level of quirkiness that's uniquely Yakuza. They're also a great way to explore the personalities of Kamurocho and Sotenbori residents, who are as varied and eccentric as the city itself.
While Kiryu and Majima are undoubtedly the stars of Yakuza Kiwami 2, the cities of Kamurocho and Sotenbori are the heart and soul of the game. These virtual recreations of Tokyo's Kabukicho and Osaka's Dotonbori districts are more than just backdrops, they're living, breathing characters in their own right.
Every street corner, neon sign, and back alley is meticulously detailed, making the cities feel alive. The attention to detail is staggering. You can walk into a convenience store, browse the shelves, buy a bento box, and then step outside to find yourself in the middle of a street brawl. The cities are packed with activities, from the aforementioned mini-games to hidden side quests and random encounters.
But it's not just the big flashy locations that make Kamurocho and Sotenbori special, it's the little details, the sound of laughter coming from the nearby hostess club, the way the rain-soaked streets reflect the neon lights. These cities aren't real, and it's a testament to the developers' love and care that they've become as iconic as the characters themselves.
Let's not forget the visuals. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is stunning. The character models are incredibly detailed, capturing every grimace, every smirk, and every bead of sweat as Kiryu pummels his way through hordes of enemies. The cities of Kamurocho and Sotenbori are brought to life with stunning realism, making every punch and every stroll through the neon-lit streets feel cinematic.
The soundtrack is another highlight, perfectly capturing the game's mood swings, from the intense heart-pounding combat to the cheesy feel-good tunes that play during the karaoke sessions. And then there's a voice acting.
かっこいいやろたくあんただけは読めねえなさあ今度は正々堂々勝負しようやないか
The Japanese cast delivers their line with the kind of intensity and passion that makes even the most ridiculous scenes feel grounded in reality.
Now it's time to talk about the humor in Yakuza Kiwami 2. The game has a unique ability to balance its serious, often emotional narrative with moments of pure, unadulterated silliness.
スムちゃん勝手に外したらダメでちゅよ
これでいつものように動けるわ
まだ無理しない方がいい
This is a game where you can go from a heart-wrenching cutscene about loyalty and betrayal to a mission where you have to rescue a man from a gang of aggressive dominatrix enthusiasts. And it all somehow fits together. The humor in Yakuza Kiwami 2 is a blend of slapstick, situational comedy, and outright absurdity. Whether it's the over-the-top combat moves, the bizarre side quests, or the sheer ridiculousness of some of the minigames, the game never takes itself too seriously, and that's what makes it so endearing. As mentioned in the beginning, Yakuza Kiwami 2 is more than just a game, it's an unforgettable experience that combines a gripping story, engaging characters, satisfying combat, and a world that feels alive with possibilities. Whether you're a series veteran or a newcomer, there's something in Yakuza Kiwami 2 for everyone.
It's a game that takes you on an emotional roller coaster, makes you laugh out loud, and leaves you with a sense of satisfaction that only comes from beating up an entire gang with nothing but your fists. So grab a glass of sake, warm up those vocal cords for some karaoke, and dive into the wild, wonderful world Yakuza Kiwami 2. Trust me, you won't have to leave. It's been JustMasked,
It's been Ams.
and we'll see you in the world of gaming.